Hey, we're here at the Progressive Auto Sales Arena with this special guy right here. We've got lots to talk about. Patrick DesRochers, thank you so much for giving me your
My
time here
pleasure, Dave.
today. And I think, most that are jumping in to watch right now will know the obvious. Congratulations on you're going to be inducted February 1st into the Sarnia Sting Hockey Hall of Fame.
Yeah, no, I'm excited about it. It's
Yeah.
an honor. The guys here, Jake and Dylan and the group here at the Sting, they've done a great job, especially with the rink. Anybody who's walked around the rink really in the last few years
Yeah.
has really noticed a big difference. They've done a nice job of kind of some added features, and the Sting Hall of Fame is one of them. So when he told me I was going in, I was excited. Yeah,
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, they've done a really fantastic job here. Especially the Hall of Fame too. Like there's the NHL list that's on there as well, and you've seen a lot of changes over the years here at the arena. But we'll get to that. But I want to always go back to the beginning. You're not from Sarnia originally. Where are you from?
Originally from Penetang, which is about a half hour north of Barrie.
Okay.
And played minor hockey there. Did a year junior B in Barrie. Got drafted to the Sting, kind of mid '90s. I think it was their second year in town here.
Yeah.
And then came to Sarnia from there.
Yeah. So how did you? Where was your first taste of hockey? Where does that come from?
It was kind of in the family. I've got three older brothers.
Okay.
Two of which were goalies. My dad was a goalie, and I was the youngest of four. So I just kind of fell in line and went along with what everyone else was doing. Yeah.
I mean, wow, what a resume here that we'll go through. But I saw the picture that they posted, the young picture of Patrick DesRochers. Do you remember that picture?
I do. Yeah. Yeah. There's a few out there that I don't like popping up every now and then, but no, that one's not too bad.
Yeah. But the thought process, like when you first got the announcement about it, and I've seen you around the arena, lots of people congratulating you, and you got this big smile on your face for obvious reasons. But did it kind of bring back some memories? Did you start reminiscing about back in the day, sort of thing?
Yeah, I mean, I think I do that a lot. Just being here so often, every weekend with the Sting, on the bus with them, going on the road. It's hard not to be kind of reminiscing about where things came from and how things started here, and it's a lot of fun. Thinking back on those times, how much the game has changed over the years, how much the Ontario Hockey League has changed over the years as well. I mean, it's changed a lot since the time I was playing here on the ice. And I remember when I first came back, it was funny. Some of my sticks were basically older than some of the kids that were on the Sting team, that I still had in my garage. So it's a lot of fun, and I'm constantly kind of reminiscing. Obviously, a guy working with Leigh Cunningham all the time. We talk a lot about the past, and he's a guy who knows that time, that era very well as well. So I mean, we reminisce a lot, not only kind of off air, but on air as well.
Right. It keeps you young, does it there, Patrick?
Yeah.
Yeah. There's a lot. Let's talk about my co-host and I, we often talk about the commitment to being on an OHL team, or any team really, but in this arena of the OHL, it's really like, it's a tough league, right? And the commitment level of a young man who's away from home, has to keep good grades, participate in the community. And by the way, I'd like to be a teenager.
Yeah.
That's tough.
I talk a lot about that, especially early in the season. We forget often when we come to the rink and we watch these guys play, we forget how young they are. And, especially now that I've had kids and my kids have gone through that age as well. You forget about what it was like, life as a 16, 17-year-old. And there's a lot of ups and downs in life. And, there's a lot that gets asked of these kids from a young age. And they're put in situations that most kids aren't. That's aside from all the work that they've had to be able to even get here to be a part of this, right? So we often forget what it was like for those kids, and that they are kids and that they're going through a lot. And there's usually a big adjustment, especially their first year away, that first stretch between when they come here, the start of school, start of training camp, moving in with a new family, moving away from their home. here every day at the rink with new guys that they've probably never met before. And that stretch between September and December, when they get to finally go home for Christmas for a few days, it can be a long haul. It's not always fun. There's a lot of adjustments. We After Christmas, though, between the Christmas and playoffs, that time always used to seem to fly,
Right.
because you were settled in, because you knew what to expect.
Yeah.
But that first few months was definitely tough, and definitely an adjustment. And that's, you look at some of these import players that come over from overseas,
Right.
and
Other
that adds
countries.
a whole other
Yeah.
level to it as well, right? So yeah, they go through a lot, and sometimes we don't give them the benefit of the doubt for it.
Right. But there is an expectation, nevertheless. You signed on the dotted line and everything. But and then when you were doing it, like there was no FaceTime, or,
Yeah.
they have, right? Like,
Yeah.
so would you say that there's a bit of an advantage there now to making it a little bit easier because I can still FaceTime mom and dad or whatever, or is it?
Yeah, I think, and depending on the situation, I was fortunate that my parents, they were down almost every weekend. They didn't miss many games.
Is that
They
right?
came to Sarnia. There's about a 4-hour drive, give or take,
Yeah.
depending on the weather. So they came a lot. So there wasn't many weekends that I didn't get to see them. So I was fortunate in that. A lot of parents, maybe can't do that, or aren't able to do that. So there's definitely some stretches. But I think technologies, for a lot of reasons, is probably a good thing for some of these young guys,
Yeah.
but can also get them into a little bit of trouble.
Yeah,
too.
it can get in the way. Yeah. Well, there's a camera everywhere now and stuff. Well, that's a good point though, right? Because they are kids. We call them kids, teenagers,
Yeah.
young adults, however you want to properly say it. And well, they like to behave as such at times, right? There's a real big mental growth spurt, I guess
yeah.
you could say, that like, wow, I got to grow up. All of a sudden, I got all this responsibility. That's really a big responsibility of the coaching staff too, would you say?
And I think you're right. I think especially coaching at this level is very unique. Whereas if you get past this level, the American League, East Coast League, or the NHL level, you're dealing with full grown men at the time.
Yeah.
Where here, you're right. You're not only coaching a hockey team and trying to get the best out of them, but you're in a lot of ways, a parent, a psychologist,
Right.
like there's a lot of hats that the coaching staff and the management, Dylan Sika, they have to wear for sure when it comes to putting on an OHL team and keeping track of them and making sure that, they're healthy, they're happy, and they're trying to get the best out of them at the same time.
Yeah, and that's a mental health thing too, right?
Oh, absolutely.
Like they have the mental health coach here now.
Yeah.
You didn't have that.
No.
Do you wish you'd have had somebody like that?
Without a doubt. And I think especially as a goaltender, that started to come into the game kind of later into my career. The importance of having that. As a goalie, the game is, I would say, 80% mental, 20% skill. Obviously, you have to have the skill to be at this level, but it's being able to mentally handle the ups and the downs, and the pressure that comes with, especially, not just for goaltending, but I think more so in that position. If you're not confident, and if you're not able to kind of work through that pressure and be able to perform, it's not easy.
Yeah, and you're out there the whole time.
Yeah.
Right. I think people kind of forget that, like these guys go up 2 minutes, maybe, at a time, sometimes longer if depending on the situation. But unless you get pulled, you're out there the entire time. You're watching you're watching everything that's happening, and you get to see all the players. Whereas, like a forward or a center, defense, whatever, they only see maybe certain areas of what's happening out there.
And there's nowhere to hide as a goalie either.
Right.
I mean, we've all played sports, whether you've played at this level or not, or the next level. Even if you've gone out and played tennis or golf or whatever,
Yeah.
we all know that feeling when you're in your groove, you're confident in your game, and things are going your way.
Yeah.
The game's easy, right? But as a goaltender, when you're not in that groove, when you don't have that confidence in yourself, pucks are going in the net. And it's your fault, right?
Yeah.
So you need to try and keep that level, keep that confidence, and keep that up for 60 minutes each and every night. It's not easy.
And you can only blame the defense so many times. Everybody does that though, right? Oh, the defense should have done better. They should. But you're right though. It is a responsibility. 100, like you typically get all 60 minutes of the game. We always hear that, oh, they got to play 60 minutes of the game. Do you must analyze a lot when you're up there with Leigh and you're looking at probably both goalies, and you can look down there and you can go, I kind of got an idea what he's going through right now.
For sure. I feel for the goalies at both ends of the ice. It was interesting when I stopped playing and I came up to the booth. I had to train myself to watch the game differently. I was constantly seeing it through the eyes of the goalie and kind of focusing on what I would have focused on when I was still a net. Whereas, when you're watching the game either as a scout or somebody calling a game, you're having to look kind of everywhere and pick up different things. So that took me a little bit to kind of train myself to kind of look at the game a little bit differently.
How long have you been I don't know, color or co-hosting with Leigh?
Well, with Leigh, I think we're about 10 years now.
But you were doing it before that too.
A couple of years before that. So I think this is my 12th season.
I got to ask the question, do you have to keep Leigh in line? With all due respect, Leigh.
We love it.
Yeah.
He's amazing.
He's so knowledgeable.
He's I call him a hockey nerd. He's a hockey encyclopedia. He knows everything there is to know about the game, and a constant professional. Like he's never seen anybody kind of prepare for a game. He's been doing it for so long, and he's each and every game. It doesn't matter, if it's playing against the last place team or an exhibition game. He's prepping for that game, and he's
here at 4:30 for a 7:00 game.
Yeah, and then he's a real professional, and we have a lot of fun. We often joke, Sean Gladwich often jokes that he wishes he could play half the things that we were talking about when we're on commercial or off the air. But off air. No, it's a lot of fun. He keeps it interesting for sure.
Yeah, and I mean he is an encyclopedia. I know, like I often go to him and see him. I get here early too, and I just, what do you think about this? And how am I right about that? And he's really open to that kind of thing. He loves being asked, and I can confidently walk away knowing that he's on the dot about what's happening.
Oh, he's got a lot of respect around the league too. Like you go into the different buildings, and, the media people and all those arenas know who he is and respect him. They, they're doing the same thing. They're coming up and talking to him and trying to find out what's going on. And he's a lot of fun, and he's a professional, and Sarnia's lucky to have him here. To listen to a game.
And you have to be smart too to be taken off of him, right? Like, let's be honest. Like you have to. Fill in the certain gaps. That's why you're there. And but what is it like? What is your routine to prepare for the broadcast?
It's certainly not what Leigh does. I mean, my knowledge comes from watching these guys each and every game, right?
Yeah.
So you get to know them pretty well. You get to know what's going on. You get to know who's got that confidence and who doesn't, and who's lacking it, and who's hot and who's not. So it more comes from that, and then just my knowledge of the game, having played it, really benefits me obviously a lot. And you get to play these teams a lot, so you get to know the competition too, and who to look for. And
do you get the opportunity to get to know like the players like off ice a little bit, or does that just happen with a few, or at all?
I mean, you get to know them a little bit by the road trips, being on the bus, that sort of thing. When I first started, I think my second year back, I did the goalie coaching for a few years for the team as well. So that was interesting too, because I'm down in the coach's room, and then I'm up here calling a game. I'm on the ice for practice. So I really got to know the guys really well back in those days. So I do miss that, going back now the last 5-6 years that I haven't been doing that. That personal relationship that I've had with the players, I don't really have that same level anymore. But they're, from all accounts, they're a good group. They're a tight group. This year they're a young group, and they like being around each other.
Well, let's talk about that, because they're obviously fans are one way or the other, and sometimes both. And as of recent, like they struggled. I don't know, 8 or 9 games in a row loss, and some people weren't so nice about that. And then all of a sudden now they're turning around. It seems like, and Dylan Sika even mentioned that it's nice to see these kids finally, I think he said, rallying around each other. They're talking to each other more. They're starting to like each other a little bit more. Is that
It's been a really weird year because they got off to a really good start.
Right.
Yeah.
Better than I think most expected.
Absolutely. And then they went through that stretch where it got ugly. It really did. You don't want to see them go through that, but it's a young team, and sometimes teams go through that, and they came out of it, and they've been playing some really, really good hockey lately, going back the last month or so now.
Yeah.
So I think it's a case where they're learning. And I look at it in as far as the fans go, they have right. They pay money to come watch these games.
Yeah, fair
they
enough.
have a right to their opinion, right?
Yeah.
And the fact that I think they were getting kind of so worked up about it shows that's a good thing. It means they're invested, and I think a lot of that comes from the success that the team had going back a few years. It brought excitement to the city. It was really fun to be a part of, and I think that has kind of led into these next few years,
absolutely,
to where we are now. So the fact that they're not happy with the way things were going there for that stretch is a good sign.
That's a good way to look at it. Yeah, fair enough.
The team, they're wanting that success, which is what the coaching staff, the management, they're all trying to strive for. So the fact that they're demanding that, I think, is a good thing. They're expecting it, and they're trying to deliver, and I think they have. Going back to last month, they've really come out of it nicely.
Yeah,
and they're playing some really good hockey right now, and they've got some really good young players on that team.
Yeah,
so the next couple of years here should be exciting.
And I think players can probably breathe a little bit more now that like trade deadlines are over. Like leading up to that, am I going to be here? And and I think Dylan Sika actually said, players' phones are blowing up with potential offers or whatever that looks like. And did you feel that too? Like
every year,
it's
something as a player that you need to get used to. A lot of these players are going through it for the first time at this level. So, and I can't imagine, back in my day, you wouldn't, unless you're sitting there reading the newspaper, you're not seeing any of it.
No.
Right? Where nowadays you've got your phone, so I'm sure you are seeing it and hearing
following
it
along
from everywhere, right? So I think it's definitely a tough time, but each and every year from this level up until you stop playing, you're going to be dealing with that and the uncertainty that comes with that date. And when it comes and goes and you're still there, you're happy. And I mean, sometimes you end up losing a player or somebody that you're close to on the team, and it can be tough that way too.
Yeah. Great record here with the Sting, though. I mean, I think he had 143 games, and you had 63 wins out of that 143.
I'll take your word for it.
Well, I wrote it down here just to be. Yeah, here we second winningest goalie in Sting history with 63 career wins, and the third all time in total games played. You played in the CHL Top Prospects game, 8 years professionally, including with the Coyotes.
Yeah,
you got drafted by them.
Yeah, played some games with them.
When that came through, was that
Oh yeah,
what was that?
It was a dream come true.
Yeah,
and that's what you when you're a kid out on the ice, you're playing, you're dreaming of that day that you might get that opportunity.
Yeah.
Right? So to get drafted, and it was good. Yeah.
What was, I think, like people talk, they think they know, but unless you've gone through, so you're at an OHL level and now you're NHL, like you don't get much higher than that. Right?
Yeah.
That experience around, like, was it all of a sudden like, holy crap, like, I can't believe I'm here?
For sure.
And then was it like, how do I sustain being here?
That's the hard part, right?
Yeah.
You get the opportunity and you get there, and you got to get past the initial kind of shock, and that you're there and you're putting your skates on next to somebody that you watch and that you grew up watching.
Right.
It was quite the experience. So you got to try and get past that and get to the point where you're one of them. And
I got a job to do.
And that goes back to, especially as a goaltender, I wish I had done more kind of that the psychiatry side of the game, and mental health and mental preparation, because I think that was a big part of the reason that I maybe didn't stick around quite as long. I wasn't quite as mentally sharp as maybe I should have been.
Yeah.
No, it was.
Who were you around that was like?
Well, when I first got there, that was when Roenick, Keith Kachuk were there.
Right.
Sean Burke ended up being the one
Oh,
goalie
yeah.
there, and then Gretzky ended up buying the team at several years after I got there. So he was actually around. I got to skate on the ice, practice with him.
That's kind of cool.
Yeah, it was pretty cool. He was actually going to come back and play a year in Phoenix. He went through training camp with us.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he had his stall, he had his equipment, went all through training camp, and then we played in the black and white game, and he ended up getting not hit in the corner, but he collided with who was it? Anyways, they collided in the corner a little bit, and he threw something, and then he didn't end up coming back after that.
Oh,
we
wow.
found out later too that, and he hadn't announced that he was coming back that year.
You could just tell.
But actually, within that year after that had happened, the word got out that he had been planning on making a comeback.
Could you imagine that you would have been a part of that?
Yeah, no, that was special.
Did you have conversations with him?
As short as they might have been, yeah.
Right. But, like, any tips? They're a great one.
We were in, I forget where we were. I want to say Columbus, but we all got to the hotel, and he went in first, got his key first, and goes up to his room. And so we're all, especially as a younger guy, I'm one of the last guys. I'm waiting for the elevator, and there's a few of us sitting there, and the door of the elevator opens back up in the lobby, and it opens up, and there's Wayne, and he's got a kind of a sour look on his face, like, stupid key won't work.
Oh,
so you can be the great one, but stuff like that.
But the key still doesn't work.
Sometimes the key won't even work for them.
Yeah,
so, you had to go get a new key. But
he's just a guy doing what he likes. Yeah. That's cool.
Yeah.
I mean, that's something you'll be able to talk about for years to come, and it's it must be nice too to be able to stay in the arena, even though you're not on the ice now, like to be a part of it, to like, even when we were walking up here, the Zamboni was running, and the noises and the smell, all that stuff.
I think it's helped because a lot of players, when they're done playing, they often feel like they miss it. And I got right into this my first year back. So I wasn't, I'm here 2 or 3 times a week watching the Sting games, right? So I didn't really have that opportunity to kind of miss it that way. So it was nice.
And you get to go on the road. You talked about being on the bus. Mm-hmm. I haven't had that experience yet. I'm not sure.
Don't worry about it.
Is that
one you necessarily want to have?
Yeah. But what do you mean? I mean, obviously you can't tell everything, but why do you mean that? Like, it's just, it gets loud, and is it a time that they let loose?
No, the time on the bus with everybody is good. It's just some of those trips are pretty long.
Yeah. Like Sault Ste. Marie or something. Right.
You can be on the bus for 6 hours, and that's just one way. So
do the guys come to you, or especially the goalies? Do they know who you are?
I don't know if they do.
Yeah,
I don't know.
They're gonna now.
Again, it was different when I was the goalie coach. They kind of had more of an idea of who I was and that sort of thing, right? But the last 4 or 5 years, I think, again, I don't have that direct contact with them, so I don't know that they really do.
And you don't go to them and say, "Hey, I saw this and that." You're not the coach.
I'm not the coach.
Right?
No.
Is that hard for you though? Sometimes, like, do you want to look and go, "Oh, but it's not my place"?
And honestly, especially with Nick being here, he's really good. Sting are fortunate to have him. On and off the ice, he's from what I've seen and from what I've heard from everybody, he works really, really hard.
He's a leadership.
He's a leader. And the guys want to play for him.
Yeah. Well, I think Dylan, mentioned in a post game that he was asked if he was going to get a day off, and he's like, when he's off, he's got his nose in the book too. He's going to be an engineer or something. I think he's studying for that. Kid. So he's busy all the time. How did you balance that though? We kind of go back to that. This, and by the way, I want to be a kid too. Like.
There was support from the team. There was a direct connection with at the time. It was a Northern high school, so there was a direct connection to the guidance counselors, and they would check in and make sure that we were staying on top of our grades and that sort of thing. My parents were a good influence too. They wanted to make sure that the grades stayed where they were, and
what did they do?
Well, my dad had a boat business up in Penetang.
Okay.
They had a marina and sold boats. And so that's, again, it worked well with hockey because the bay was frozen over then. So they're not selling a ton of boats in the off season, right?
Right. So they
had lots of time to travel around and go to hockey games.
And that was mom too? They did that together? Yeah. Nice.
Yeah.
So are both parents still around?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
So they got a big smile on their face because they saw, oh, my boy is in the Hall of Fame. Well, and why not, right? You know, because they were a part of it.
Oh, big part of it. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, any of these kids out on the ice today, you know, they've got a support system, and more so, I don't know about more so now, but the game's changed a lot, and that, you know, it costs a lot of money to keep up. And
right.
You know, back in my day, you'd play hockey in the wintertime, and summertime you'd do whatever you wanted, you know, play other sports. But now it's 12 months a year. You're paying for off ice training. You're paying for you know, sports psychologists.
Right.
You're paying for it's a lot of money.
There's a lot of sweat equity in the beginning
it's
too, right?
It's unfortunate for a lot of kids, you know, because a lot of kids
can't afford it.
Can't afford that. So yeah.
Do you ever wonder about that? You know, is there another great one out there that doesn't get the chance?
Yeah, I do, and you know, I think there's things in place for certain kids if there is a real passion that they want to play. You know, I know there's organizations and things like that.
Pardon me. Yeah,
but yeah.
Let's kind of shift gears a little bit now. Like, let's talk about your family. How many children do you have?
I got 3 boys.
Wow,
they're not so much boys anymore.
Yeah.
I've only got one left at home.
I think I was gonna say. I think I've heard you talking recently about driving one to school. And,
yeah, 2 of them are in London, and then my youngest is in grade 11 here.
And how did you meet your wife?
In Mr. Bruff's English class at Northern High School.
Oh, is that right? Yeah. Well, high school sweethearts.
Yeah.
And you got married. I think it was 2001, if I read correctly. And so that's like
24 years
wow.
this year. Yeah. So she's followed me everywhere, and we've been
what does she do?
A lot of places.
What's her name?
Jana.
Okay.
And she is the secretary at High Park Public School. Yeah. So she's been with this. She's the board now for about 4 years. She went to college actually shortly after we came back. She took a 2-year program here at Lambton, and then she's been working at the school board.
So she's been involved.
Oh yeah.
Right. Like, and well, let's talk about that. You got to have the right partner just for marriage, period. But for something like that's not a normal 9-to-5 job that you were taking on, and
a lot of traveling.
How did you handle that?
You had to have the support. I mean, some years you didn't know where you were going, and all of a sudden you'd find out kind of late summer, okay, we're heading here this year. So we'd try and gather up things. And it's one thing when you don't have kids, but when you start having little kids and a dog, and it's a lot to kind of pack up and move to a new place where you don't know anybody. And the last 5, 6, 7 years I played over in Europe. So you were again going to a different country sometimes and getting set up, different language. We were in Germany for 2 years.
Was she with you?
Oh yeah. She went everywhere. So no,
because that's not always the case, right?
No.
So for some people,
no, depending on the situation, sometimes, you know, their seasons are shorter over there too. So they might come over for a bit and then go home. But she was everywhere with us. So we had 2 kids in the States, one in Norway. So
when they were born?
Oh yeah, when they were born.
Oh really?
Yeah.
So are they American or are they Norwegian?
The 2 oldest are American, well, dual citizens.
Whatever, yeah.
And then the youngest was born in Norway, and over there they're not automatic citizens. You have they changed the rules, I think about 4 or 5 years before we got there, that one of the parents had to be Norwegian citizen for them.
What was that like, being in another country? I mean, you go back then the US was different, but
and the game's different too. A lot of those European leagues, you play like maybe 40 games a year, 35, 40 games a year. And there's not as much travel. And then we talk about the trade deadline. There wasn't really there wasn't
that really isn't one
over there, right? So we really enjoyed our time over in Europe.
The experience,
different lifestyle, the experience. It was.
What did you like about it?
Just the culture differences. Learning how, you know, different places are. We traveled a lot. Got to see a lot of Europe, and we really enjoyed it.
I'm going to Germany shortly in Munich. Have you been there?
We were.
Any tips for me? That was a while ago, I know.
We like Germany. Yeah. It was good. Munich's nice.
Language barriers at all? Did you have to overcome that?
Germany especially was the worst. When we were in Norway for 4 years, not there. They spoke really good English. My wife actually got pretty good at German after our first year, because we were in a small small city in Eastern Germany, so there was really no English at all. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Now from hockey going into real estate,
Yeah.
like that's
Well, it was a transition that I started doing prior to coming home my last year. We knew it was going to be our last year. We were in Austria. So
right.
started taking the courses online and wanted to kind of hit the ground running when I got home. So I've been doing that really since a few months after getting back, beginning of 2013.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
been with
And that's
Remax, and it works well with the hockey
sure
side, 'cause that's,
flexibility.
yeah, and it's our slower time of year typically, through the winter, so
Right.
works well with this. And it's something I enjoy. It's when you can help a young couple find their first home,
Yeah.
there's a lot of fun in
But
that
it's
as
a
well.
challenging career. Like, I mean,
Yeah,
there's a lot of agents. I was just talking to,
yeah,
well, you and I probably know a lot of the same people. And it's like, there's like, I don't know, 350, 400 agents now
yeah.
compared to how many when
When
you
I
got in,
started, there might have been 200.
right?
Yeah. Yeah,
So,
so it's a tough. It's not easy, that's for sure.
yeah,
You got to kind
yeah.
of wear a lot of hats, and
Hmm.
it's a lot of hard work
It's a big deal for somebody to buy a home,
for
especially
sure.
their first one.
Yeah,
And if they don't have kids but are thinking about it, like it's a the major purchase next to a car, I think,
yeah, yeah. And I mean, the market's been crazy going back the last few years, one way than the other way. But
Yeah.
it's there's a lot that can go into it. There's a lot of stresses that go into it
Hmm.
for a buyer or a seller. So
Right.
yeah,
And you're building a network. I mean, like I know I have the struggle. I think we've probably talked about it before. It's like if I were to ever, I'm never moving again, ever, ever moving again. I'm the only place I'm going is in the nail in the coffin. But I don't know who I would use.
yeah,
There's a couple of my friends are going, "What do you mean you don't know who you use?" And I don't want to just throw a name into a hat.
yeah.
Like I want you
It's
to
tough.
work for me. And I would think that'd be the biggest struggle as a realtor.
It's something you have to get used to, because you sometimes have friends that you think, oh, they'd for sure go
Even
with me,
family,
and then
perhaps.
all of a sudden, you see their house go up, and you're like, what happened there? But it's something you
It's
have to
part of the
it's part of the
business, right?
business,
Yeah.
and there's usually some connection somewhere that you didn't know of, or
Yeah.
whatever, and you just have to have tough
Well,
skin.
at the end of the day, the dollar's the dollar. It doesn't matter who
Yeah,
you are, right?
yeah,
So, but you enjoy it, obviously.
I do. Yeah, I do.
Yeah. And I do see you sometimes here, like you're maybe getting ready and then the phone rings and you're off in a corner somewhere. And
Yeah.
I'm like, yeah, he's working on a deal
Well,
right now.
and even since I've started, it's been 12 years. That has changed a lot, as far as, a lot can be done electronically now. When I started, everything
Yeah.
was
Oh, right, right.
was done up, and you had to be in
Paperwork.
person,
Yeah.
and signatures back and forth. Where now, I mean, I can do everything on my phone if I need to.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it definitely makes it a little
And
easier
you're
when
with
I'm.
Remax, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. Is that who you've always been
yeah.
with?
I've been there for the full 12 years.
You must like them then, because
I do. Yeah.
some real estate agents will go, well, I'll be here for a few years and I go over here now. And like, you're not, and I don't understand it, but
Yeah.
you're not that guy.
No, April's been really good to me
Yeah.
over there, and yeah.
Yeah. She hasn't tried to teach you how to box.
No, I saw that. I'm staying out of the ring, that's for sure.
Right.
Yeah.
You could be a commentator.
Yeah, yeah.
Right.
I'll go watch.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
Right. What's your, like, you seem like a pretty happy life going on, like, I mean, life has its ups and downs.
Yeah.
I get that, but you got a career that you love. You're still attached to the game. Is there a favorite part about the game?
I think at this level, it's watching the kids develop
Yeah.
from year to year. I mean, we've seen it here this year. You get those second year kids that you're expecting to kind of take that next step, and there's a lot of development that happens, not only skill wise for these kids after a year or two being here, but we talked about development for
Right.
anybody who's had kids, watching a teenage boy from the age of 15 to 20, and how many changes they go through physically, right? So you never know when those big changes are going to happen. And then you see them get their confidence, and off they go. So
See them grow into
Yeah.
young men and
Yeah.
then professionals, etc. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a good feeling to watch that.
yeah, that's my favorite part, I think, is year
Yeah.
to year, watching the development and
Nice.
watching the kids take off.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You mentioned how you're fortunate that you've still been able to stay attached to the game, or a lot of guys don't get to. And earlier you mentioned a lot of changes that have happened in the OHL. Can you speak to some of those things, like rules wise? Is that what you're referring
Yeah, I mean,
to, or
the game itself has changed a lot. There's no question about that. And even just where we've come from as a city when the team first came to town, you talk about changes of their new dressing room now and the
it's
digs they
beautiful?
have. It's unreal
Yeah,
compared to when I first got here. We had two dressing rooms over at Sarnia Arena,
right.
and those were
Yeah,
our dressing rooms, and that's just what we had.
yeah,
And we got undressed on one side, and then everybody was crammed into one side of one of those little dressing rooms over at Sarnia Arena. So,
yeah.
and then to move here, I got to play in this building for a couple months, I think, and then I got traded to Kingston for the rest of my last
All
year.
right.
So I got to watch this being built, and then we got to move in, and what a change that was, going from that rink, those dressing rooms, over to the dressing room that they had before. I
Yeah,
mean, that was back in the day. That was a pretty nice dressing room in
you
itself.
felt VIP
Yeah,
finally.
yeah,
Yeah,
and then to be part of it, the transition a couple of years ago, for them moving from that side over to there, um, to look at that now, where the organization has come from that and this rink,
yeah.
and the success they've had here in the last few years, to that old arena. And it was a lot of fun, mind you, that
Right.
playing in that rink with the crowds and the fans,
Sure, it'd
and
be
it
really
all.
loud, I
Oh,
suppose.
and the crowds were unbelievable, especially in those first few years
Yeah,
where the team was new and exciting, and teams hated coming to that rink because
because it was just so
the
loud.
crowd was
And
just on top of
yeah, well, talk
everybody.
about the fans.
Yeah,
Like even I think you brought it up earlier. A couple of years ago, the Sarnia Sting made some big trades.
yeah,
It was pretty obvious to even somebody who didn't know anything about hockey that they were going for it. Didn't quite work out. But the fans have continued since that. I guess it's 2 years ago, 2 seasons ago, right?
yeah.
I don't think we've seen much less than 3,800
Hmm.
in this barn here.
Yeah.
That's got to speak to.
Well, yeah, and I mean, anybody who was around a few years ago when that was going on, you didn't even have to be in the rink to know there was excitement in the
It
city,
was all
right?
over
It was
town.
all over town. Everybody was talking about it, and it was so much fun to be a part of. And it's carried over even till today. Like, we're still, there's crowds are coming out. It's getting a little scary there when things weren't going well a couple months ago,
Yeah,
but the crowds are still there. They're still coming out. They're still supporting. And this building is a lot of fun to play in when it's going crazy, when
yeah.
there's excitement in the building. It's a lot of fun.
Fans
I
like you. Sorry, go ahead.
I sometimes am a little disappointed because we have the headphones on. You can't get the full effect
Sure, right,
of
right,
the
right.
crowd, right? So
Yeah,
sometimes,
I
you
often
know,
take one off my ear and
yeah,
just try
when they're
to.
really going nuts, it's fun. I kind of take the headphones off just so I
Yeah,
can hear them and be a part of it a little bit that way.
I always wondered how much noise has to be made for a player to actually hear. Like it never
Oh,
made sense to me to yell at a referee because I can't
yeah.
hear you.
The times you can hear people in the crowd is usually when there's not many people in the building. Then you
Right.
hear them yelling and screaming.
Yeah.
That's when you're going to hear kind of the digs and that sort of thing. But when it's a full house, the players, they feel it. Like
Yeah,
it's
for
literally,
sure.
it's electric, right? Like you can feel that excitement
It
and that.
hits you right
Oh
here,
yeah,
and then
yeah,
ooh,
yeah. The hard part is controlling it, not to get too carried away.
yeah,
It's to kind of use it, but not let it kind of overwhelm you a little bit.
yeah. The referees. I mean, it's you dare I?
Dare you?
Well,
Yeah.
I mean, putting on a black and white shirt. I mean,
I don't envy them. I'll tell you that much.
no, like
Yeah.
like I guess it'd kind of be like being a police officer. You kind of got to know what you're stepping into,
Yeah.
which is a big pile of whatever.
Yeah.
And the fans turn quickly, like they come out and they get booed, and then in a second, it's almost like wrestling. Like they can
Yeah.
switch all of a sudden. Yay, good call, ref. And then what do you
Yeah.
but there's a lot to it that we don't see as a fan, as a broadcaster. Even I imagine there's a reason they don't come out and give
Hmm.
interviews, right?
Yeah.
You talk about change over the years in the OHL. How has that changed?
That's maybe one of the things I don't think that has changed all that much. I think
Yeah,
the biggest thing that's changed for them is the video replay that we didn't have back in the day,
right.
right? So, there might be a few more delays, but they're getting more calls, right? Because they have the luxury of being able to go back and look at things. So, which I think is a good thing.
Do you? Yeah.
Yeah. I think as far as, how the game has changed. The game, there's no question. Oh, we're going back almost 30 years now.
Yeah.
Was a lot rougher, and it was a different style of game back then, right? So
More fights.
yeah, more fights. So that way, I guess, there was probably more getting let go as far as calls and things. But at the end of the day, especially at this level, the refs, we forget sometimes too, this is a development league for them as well.
Good point.
So they're still learning. They're getting put in positions that maybe they haven't been put in positions
Yeah.
before. It doesn't make it any easier as a fan or as a broadcaster to see what goes on sometimes.
Yeah.
And not.
Do you have to hold your tongue sometimes,
we do.
Pat?
Yes, me more so than Leigh holds his tongue a little better than I do. I sometimes say the odd thing, but you're the emotions are high, and
sure,
you're there, and as a fan, as a broadcaster, as a player or a coach, it's tough, right? When a ref makes a call, there's going to be one group that's happy, one group that's not. So you're never going to make anybody fully happy.
Right.
So
yeah, one side's going to be happy about it. Yeah.
And I often try and tell myself, when I'm kind of wound up from a call or something, that these are younger refs, a lot of them.
I never really thought about it that way.
Some have been around for a while and should know better, and those are the kind of the older refs in the league, and a lot of times they tend to do a little bit better job. But
it's kind of like a line that you can have a 20-year-old and a 17-year-old, and you got to work with that.
It's tough, right? I mean, picture being in Bud Gardens, 10,000
I suppose,
fans at
right?
you,
yeah.
Booing you. It's tough to not
gotta have rhino skin. Yeah. I imagine mental health coming into that as well too. I would think, because sometimes they throw stuff at you, even right, And that's probably, I'm sure that's why. Like, you never see an interview with a referee.
No.
When they're done, they're off the ice. They're in the locker room, and their cars.
I do like listening.
They borrow their neighbor's car.
Yeah, I do enjoy listening to the older refs that have retired, and they you sometimes hear from them. They'll
get some
do
tidbits
interviews and things like that, right? So it's fun to hear those stories.
Yeah. Coaching, another big side of this. I mean, your coaches that you had. How did they, outside of the game, they had a big influence on you as well, I imagine.
For sure. And that's one of the things too, that, I mean, the game changed a lot from when I first came into the league, mid-90s, to when I was, done playing kind of 2013-ish. You went through a phase where old-time hockey, where, everybody kind of feared the coach and did what they said. And, if they said jump, you said how high. Where kids nowadays, there's, like we talked about, coaching, especially at this level, a coach nowadays has to try and get the best out of every player, right? Not everybody responds to that
or the same way.
Or the same way. So you have some guys that, need the carrot, some that need the stick. And it's a coach's job at this level to know which players, you need to kind of get on top of, which players you need to be a little bit more kind of understanding with. So that makes coaching, I think, at this level nowadays much more difficult.
And then, right. And then that just adds to, like we talk about mental health. I mean, keep coming back to those two words, but it's a big part of this game. And that's on the coach too, I think, to go like they weren't, I think that's kind of how Face Off for Mental Health got started, was a coach said, I don't know how to handle this, or I got this kid coming to me, telling me nothing to do with hockey, help, right? So the coaches need that support as well.
For sure. And it's certainly gotten a lot better. There's a lot of supports available for whoever needs it, whether it's, off the ice, on the ice. There is still in sports in general, a culture of, playing sports and trying not to show any weakness too, right? That's part
tough.
Of being a professional athlete is being able to handle it. And that's something that I don't know how we'll ever kind of fully get over, as far as knowing when you need to talk to somebody or when you need that help, or when you're trying to kind of just deal with it on your own.
Well, like you said, and I guess there's a bit of a stigma to it, is like, if I talk to somebody, guys don't cry. That sort of thing. What about women in hockey? We see the PWHL out now, which I saw that coming, and I was like, that's cool. Like, I enjoyed watching it. They're finally getting, it was tough because, like, women's hockey didn't sell. Like, let's call it what it is, you
Yeah.
know, like view ratings and all that. And they kind of did their own thing before what's happening now, going online. I think it was on Twitch, etc. And were you excited to see that come out as well too?
Yeah, I mean, anybody and they've played here a couple times,
Yeah.
the American and the Canadian teams,
Yep.
men, women, you put two teams on the ice that hate each other and they've got that emotion,
Yeah, right.
it's entertaining.
Yeah.
And I love watching the Canadian and the American women go at it because you know that they're going to claw for every inch.
They're not
out there.
afraid.
Oh no. And it's, yes, there's no contact, but there's contact. Like it's a rough game. And you can tell that they're out there.
Do you think that'll change at some point? The no contact?
No, I don't think it needs to. Again, you watch one of those games and you're not like they've got a way of still making it
right.
Still getting it in there.
They
right?
have their way.
Yes. But no, I think it comes down to that. I think people are going to be entertained and they will watch it if you put that kind of product on the ice. And I mean, you see it even at the NHL level. You get games where teams just seem disinterested and it's hard to watch. You know, that the rivalries that are there, that they need to continue to make that happen. And you know, for me, I think we've gone a little too far in the game where everybody's friends now. You know, that's where you get into those situations late in playoffs and Stanley Cup runs where, you know, you can tell those teams, they hate each other and they want to win, right?
Yeah.
And that's what sports is. It's competition. So, and you need to have a little bit of that animosity for the team you're playing against.
Not everybody gets a ribbon, right?
No.
Right. Yeah. You know, do you have a favorite NHL team?
Growing up, I was a Detroit fan. I love Stevie Y. So he was my favorite player growing up. I was fortunate when we were here. Cicerelli's were the owners, so we would get tickets every now and then to go down to Joe Louis Arena and watch games. So that was big. That was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Nowadays, I wouldn't call myself a Leaf fan, but that's who I kind of pay the most attention to.
Right.
I'm just as happy to watch them kind of flame out as you know, if they have.
You just want to see a good hockey game at the end of the day, right?
Yeah. Yeah. So that's probably who I follow the most.
Yeah. We talk about the coaching, and you know, different styles. We'll call it old school. Let's talk even where we are right now. You got Coach Al Letang there. I really have enjoyed seeing him as a coach. He's a real philosophical guy, very calm. I think we've only once or twice seen. I think it was last year at the end, but he really brought something new to this hockey club. Would you say?
Yeah, I mean he's a great student of the game. He's very smart, very intelligent, and he's got a passion for the game. You know, coaches nowadays, you're here. It's 24/7,
right,
on and off the ice. Especially at this league, like we talked about, there's a lot that goes into it as far as making sure the players are all happy and doing well, and for him to be able to kind of wear several hats and know kind of how to get the best out of each and every player on that bench, and what's going to motivate them and get them going. And I think he brings a lot of good things when it comes to that.
Yeah. Talk a little bit more about your kids. You said they're in school. What are they doing?
My oldest has half a semester left for chemical engineering. So
nice.
He may end up back in the city when he's all done. We'll see. And then my middle son is at school at Western as well for nursing.
Nice.
And then my youngest is in grade 11 at SFX, the French high school over there.
Yeah. Okay. And has any aspirations yet of what to be? Like, hockey goalie?
No, I mean, they've all played different sports. My oldest was big into the curling.
Oh, yeah.
And did some golf. My middle guy was big into basketball. My youngest guy plays hockey, volleyball. He's mostly volleyball now. So it's been fun for us. We've got kind of go to all the different types of sports and venues. And it's been a lot of fun. They're my life. My family is who I live for. And yeah.
Well, here you talk about them regularly around the arena here, and here's some experiences and some of the when one person's sick, everybody's sick in your house, from what I recall, right? It's like, Patrick's sick, they're all going to be sick pretty soon. But congratulations once again on February 1st. I think is the day that they haven't announced the time or whatever, but I knew you were like pretty good at what you had done in the past, but then when this came out, I kind of forced myself to do some more. And I'm like, that's like, I hope you are proud of that because they're big numbers. They're big. There's a reason why you're being put into the Hall of Fame, and you mentioned, I know Leigh has a lot of respect, but you must know you've got a lot of respect from people. Like I talk about you behind your back once in a while, right? It's not just Leigh, but yeah, and you can see it. There it is. That you're pretty excited and proud of the fact that you're going to be permanently mounted here on the wall.
Yeah, I mean, it should be fun. I'm looking forward to it, and it means a lot to me. The support from everybody, and it should be a fun night.
Yeah. Retirement at some point? Like, do you have I mean, I know your kids are still young and stuff. You're still kind of young. How old are you?
Mid-40s.
Mid-40s. Okay. Yeah. I couldn't get it out of them, but I'm older than you, put it that way.
Yeah.
But do you ever think about that? Do you ever go like, retirement would be nice to do?
Honestly,
you haven't talked about it yet?
Ahead yet.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah. You got to make some more money.
Well, yeah.
Get the kids out of school.
No kidding.
Right?
Yeah.
That's cool. I'm really, I've always been grateful for talking to you and learning from you, as well as I always say, I'm still learning how to spell sports. So, thanks very much for your time, Pat, and congratulations once again. Dave. You're welcome. So there you go. Patrick DesRochers, former goalie of the Sarnia Sting, and a whole lot of experience there. And now CHOK, with Leigh Cunningham is where you can hear the broadcast as well. We're going to put some more comments down below, and we'll list all of the things that Pat has done. And keep an eye out coming up February 1st for the Hall of Fame. There'll be some announcements on just where and how that's going to happen. But click the like and click the share button so we can share Patrick's story and everybody else. But as always, that's all the time I got for you this week. Have a great week and an even better weekend. We'll see you next time right here in the show. Bye for now.